George Lucas always seemed like a really cool guy. All through the years of Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and the sequels, and to an extent, when he, sold to Disney, he would show up on the set of The Mandalorian a couple times. But there's one thing that George Lucas always regrets, and he hates. And if you know what it is, like I do, then you know that a lot of fans don't like it. They totally object against his hate and his refusal. And what's that thing? Well, it's for the theatrical re-release of the original Star Wars. George Lucas hates it. He cannot stand it. He said that the reason he hates it is when he created it, the technology hadn't advanced enough that he was happy with the results, but he had to release it. In fact, he hated that there wasn't enough special effects, that he created his own special effects company that they could create these special effects for Star Wars, because there was nothing like that back then. So I can see that, George Lucas had this idea in his head for what he wanted Star Wars. But to me, I think that Star Wars is a historical document, and it is fantastic as it is. I went and saw it in the movies. I'm dating myself. I went and saw it in the movies when it came out, and I was 6 or 7. And to me, it just blew me away. It was so fantastic. But I found this article talking about how George Lucas does not like the theatrical release of Star Wars, and I wanted to share it with you. So it says on WDWNT, worldwide leader in Disney Park News, that George Lucas doesn't want the theatrical Star Wars film re-released. And it says George Lucas hopes that the theatrical versions of the Star Wars original trilogy will never be restored or re-released. George Lucas speaks out on possibility of Star Wars theatrical re-releases. If you've ever watched Star Wars A New Hope since 1997, you've probably seen Greedo shoot first at Han Solo in the Mos Eisley Cantina. But anyone who saw Star Wars in theaters in 1977 will tell you Han shot first, and he did. It's the most famous change George Lucas made to the original 3 Star Wars films in the decades after their theatrical release. Starting with the 1997 special edition, Lucas added scenes and changed special effects, tweaking elements of the film pretty much until Disney acquired them in 2012. However, even Disney adjusted Greedo and Han's duel slightly, adding a line of dialogue, McClunky, to the 2019 Disney Plus version of A New Hope. Fans have debated the Han shot first scene in particular, but also raised issues with some of Lucas's other changes and have petitioned for the original theatrical version to be re-released in some way. But Lucas reiterated at the 2024 Cannes Film Festival that he hopes that never happens. I'm a firm believer that the director or writer or the filmmaker should have a right to have his movie be the way he wants it, he said, comparing it to Michelangelo's process of painting and repainting the Sistine Chapel ceiling. Well, the fans kind of have a say, I guess, and it's not his anymore. I mean, if Disney decides to re-release the theatrical version of it, then he doesn't really get a say. I love you, George, but sorry. We did release the original one on Laserdisc, and everybody got really mad, Lucas said. They said it looks terrible, and I said, yeah, I know it did. This is what it looked like. The initial Laserdisc re-release was in 1993. The theatrical versions were later included alongside the altered versions on special limited edition DVD box sets released in 2006 and 2008. For those releases, the 1993 Laserdisc masters were not retransferred, making them non-amorphic, i.e., in the wrong aspect ratio. At Cannes, George Lucas was awarded the honorary Palme d'Or. He also commented on artificial intelligence, AI, using in film, calling it inevitable. It's like saying, I don't think these cars are going to work. Let's just stick with horses, he said. You can't say that, but that isn't the way the world works. So, what are your thoughts about that? For me, I think having a theatrical version of Star Wars would be a collector piece that I would keep. Even if I didn't like the theatrical release, I would still keep it as like a collector piece. And I think a lot of the fans would, the hardcore fans, they would keep it as a collector piece. I mean, because I remember having my Star Wars tape, and it was on VCR, and I played it so much it warped the tape. So when he came out with all these revisions, I'm like, what is going on? To me, I'm kind of a purist. I liked the Star Wars as it was, and him messing with it made it look kind of more fake. I mean, to me, it was realistic. I was 6 years old, 7 years old, seeing this stuff, and it was so realistic. And it seems like he just went in there and shoved this CGI. He put Greedo shooting first. He put Jabba the Hutt, meaning Han Solo, in the docking bay, and then he added like all these stormtrooper parts in the Death Star, and it was just a lot of stuff. Oh, and in the Mos Eisley Cantina, they also had a lot of stuff. The new band, basically, and so I didn't like it personally. I mean, there's some people that I guess liked it, um, but I agree that the Jabba that they originally had, the human at the docking bay, what they cut out, I think that that they should have done that. But adding Jabba, and then they revised it, that Jabba scene, like 6 or 7 times, because Han Solo walks behind Jabba, and Jabba has a huge tail, so they had to like show him like pretend like he's stepping on Jabba's tail, and it like lifts him up, and Jabba makes a big face when Han steps on his tail. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous. Adding it, I think kind of takes away. I understand George not liking it, thinking he could have done better, but it's like I said, it's a historical document basically, and it's like going back to take Gone with the Wind and adding parts to it, or taking out parts that you don't like. It feels like after a while it just ruins it. So to me, keep it the same. Give out the re-release of the theatrical version, because I want one for a collector's piece. I'll put it back on here next to all my guys. Well, if you like this video and you like the video content, then you should really like this video, and also click the subscribe button. I really appreciate it. May the Force be with you always.